Good morning from Gaysville, Vermont. If you see a sign like this in Vermont that says legal load limit 24,000 pounds, it's going to become a dirt road. This bridge crosses the White River, which flows into the Connecticut River on the border of New Hampshire and Vermont. Here is the dirt road promised earlier by the sign. Anyway, I had a good dry night's sleep at a last-minute inn in Barnard, Vermont. It rained hard all night and was just abating as I left in the morning, hence the bright yellow jacket. I had it in my mind that the Class 4 roads would be really swampy after all that rain, so I took the bypass for many of the harder sections today. It just means that I'll have to revisit them at a later date. There's a small flock of turkeys on the right up ahead. It's just about 9 a.m., and the roads are beginning to dry, but the mountains are still blanketed in fog. Except for the top of that guy over there. Now I've ridden from Hancock, New York to Hancock, Vermont, a town of 382 people on the edge of the Green Mountain National Forest. A few miles back, I saw an old man along this forest road, so I stopped to chat with him. His name was Lenny, and he's 93 years old. His truck is 2 miles away, and he was just out on his daily walk. Go home, buddy, go home. He mentioned that there is a spot named after him called Lenny's Lookout. I did some searching, and sure enough, Lenny's Lookout was about 10 miles away on Silver Lake Trail. I wish now that I had my camera on, but I am often hesitant to film the human interactions that I have. I wish Lenny many more years of walks in these beautiful Vermont forests. Section 5 of the Northeast Backcountry Discovery Route goes through some really beautiful farmland that is nestled in the mountains. This is Lincoln Gap Road. At 2,424 feet, it is the highest vehicle-accessible road in Vermont. This road is a hoot when it's dry, but it's best to take it easy when it's wet. I'm starting to see more leaves change in color up here in Vermont. The Warren-covered bridge has stood here since 1880. It crosses the Mad River, named for its propensity to overflow its banks without warning. It's nice to see that I'm not the only one on these back roads deep in the woods. Or maybe not so deep in the woods. There's a whole lot of milk coming out of these farms. This is the floating bridge in Brookfield, Vermont. The first of 8 iterations was built in 1820 over the frozen pond with some logs. In 1884, they started using tarred wooden barrels, with whiskey barrels being used in 1936. In 1978, they used plastic pontoons full of styrofoam, which eventually became waterlogged, shutting the bridge to traffic in 2008. They completely replaced the bridge in 2015 and used timber decking and railings to keep the charm of the older bridges. They expect the pontoons to last 100 years. Vermont is such a wonderful place to ride. It has around 8,700 miles of dirt or gravel roads, which accounts for about 55% of all roads. Asking the GPS for the shortest route often finds great dirt back roads. Some meander along beautiful creeks and ravines. And honestly, many of the gravel roads are smoother than some of the paved roads at home. I had to stop for a look at this Highland coup. The farms here are simply stunning. It's a shame the GoPro decided to fog up. I didn't skip all of the Class 4 sections. As the day got nicer, I took the Pepper Road section. The downhill section was a little squishy, but not too bad. The forests are so lovely here. I need to remember to look up more often. The sign says, "Use of this trail is a privilege and not a right." I am grateful that all of these tracks are open to the public. I stopped to consult the GPS. The paper map had mysteriously disappeared from my tank bag somewhere along Section 3 a couple days ago. Even smaller timber operations harvest a whole lot of logs. You can just make out this deer bounding into the woods. The dirt is quite squishy here. This is Page Hill Road on the last Class 4 stretch of Section 5. You can just make out the old stone walls on either side of the road. Many of these forest tracks are really old roads that were traveled by horses and wagons. And on Tucker Mountain, the town of Newberry has put up signs telling about it. This road is said to have been on the route from Boston to Montreal, and there was a large farm with a tavern to support the travelers. Up here is the ruins of a homestead from the 1800s. I imagine wagon rides around here were a bit jarring. These big exposed rocks are super fun to ride over. As are these water bars. Here is a surviving outbuilding from one of the old farms. I am now crossing the Veterans Memorial Bridge across the Connecticut River into Woodsville, New Hampshire. This is the end of Section 5, and it's time to start figuring out where I'm going to be spending the night. This is the Bath Covered Bridge. It is the 5th bridge to stand here and was completed in 1832. The sign on top of the bridge reads, $1 fine to drive any team faster than a walk on the bridge. It was believed that the impact of trotting horses could cause the structure to fall apart. This is the brick store that has been operated continuously since the 1790s, but sadly is a casualty of the pandemic and is currently for sale. The Swiftwater covered bridge here was built in 1849. I got into a little more rain, but it looked like it would be finished by dinner time. I saw possible campsites near Rumney and Campton. The site near Rumney was a hostel and not very appealing. I stopped for a look at this waterfall on the road to Campton. The rain did clear up, and I found a spot at the Campton Campground in White Mountain National Forest. I got a beer and firewood from the local gas station and enjoyed some freeze-dried pad thai. I rode 277 miles today and covered all of Section 5 and the first half of Section 6 of the Northeast Backcountry Discovery Route. I did skip a few of the Class 4 sections, which I'll have to come back for. If you are still watching, thanks for coming along.